Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we'll continue the Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto. Shall I share the screen?
I'll try, bro. Let's see.
Otherwise, I can do it, no problem.
Sure. Let me try. Okay.
So we are in third canto, 27th chapter, verse number 21 will begin. So last time we saw some of the questions asked by Devahuti. I'll just briefly go through the questions and then I'll come to 21st verse. So Devahuti asked a question in 3 verses. She said that Purusham Prakriti Brahman na vimunchati karhichit. Prakriti never gives up the Supreme Lord because of the eternal attraction between them. Just as a fragrance cannot separate from the earth, just like the taste cannot exist separate from the water, similarly, the Lord does not exist separate from Prakriti. The Jivatma, although not a doer, becomes bound by the action. Since the gunas of Prakriti remain with the Jivatma, who takes the shelter of the gunas, how can the Jivatma attain liberation from the 3 gunas? That is the question. How can the Jivatma attain liberation from the 3 gunas? Sometimes fear of material existence is destroyed by counting the different elements. But then fear again returns because the root cause of material existence is not destroyed. Therefore, please actually explain how can the Jivatma attain liberation? How can the root cause of actually material existence be destroyed? That was the question. Now we'll see the answer of Kapila Dev. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Animitta Nimittena. So what I'll do is I'll recite one line, maybe somebody can repeat and then they can read the translation. Animitta Nimittena. Somebody can repeat.
Animittena mittena.
Swadharmena malatmana.
Swadharmena malatmana.
Tivraya mai bhaktya cha.
Tivraya mai bhaktya cha.
Shruta sambhrutaya chiram.
Shruta sambhrataya chiram.
You can read the translation.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one can get liberation by seriously discharging devotional service unto me, and thereby hearing for a long time about me or from me. By thus executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction, and one will be freed from the contamination of matter.
So, in these 3 verses, 21 to 23, Kapila Dev explains the process of liberation or how to destroy the subtle body. So he says that Tivraya Mai Bhaktya cha. Tivra we can understand. Tivraya Bhaktya. By intense devotional service or by serious devotional service. or by energetic bhakti for a long time. By energetic bhakti to me, for chiram means for a long time. And how to perform bhakti? Animitta nimittena. Animitta nimittena means without desire for the results. Anya abhilashita shunyam, without a desire for the results. And swadharmena amalatmana. Amalatmana, without desire for the results. Amalatmana, which purifies the heart. And swadharmena, and performed according to one's occupational duties. Performed according to one's occupational duties. So I'll read the next verse also, and then we'll discuss the purports. Next two verses also I'll go through. So you can repeat after this, and then I will discuss the three verses together. Jnanena drishta tattvena.
Jnanena drishta tattvena.
Vairagyena baliyasa.
Vairagyena baliyasa.
Tapo yuktena yogena.
Tapo yuktena yogena.
Tivrenatma samadhina.
Tivrenatma samadhina. This devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge and with transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption.
Next verse. Prakriti purushasyeha.
Prakriti purusasyeha.
Dahyamanatva harnisham.
Dahyamanatva aharnisam.
Tiro bhavitri shanakair.
Tiro bhavitri sanakair.
Agner yonirivaranihi.
Agner yonirivaranihi. The influence of material nature has covered the living entity, and thus it is as if the living entity were always in a blazing fire. But by the process of seriously discharging devotional service, this influence can be removed, just as wooden sticks which cause a fire are themselves consumed by it.
So here, in these three verses, Kapila Dev explains how to attain liberation. So, Tivraya Mai Bhaktya, by energetic bhakti or by intense bhakti for a long time, Chiram. Animitta Nimittena, what kind of bhakti? Without a desire for the results. And which purifies the heart. And the nature of bhakti is that Amalatmana, it purifies the heart. And Swadharmena, it is performed according to its occupational duties. And Jnanena, by knowledge, along with Drishta Tattvena, with the realization of the elements. Drishta Tattvena. Vairagyena, by strong renunciation. Tapo Yuktena, by yoga accompanied by austerities. Tivrena Atma Samadhina, by intense concentration on the Lord. The subtle body of the jiva, in this way, by performing bhakti in this way, what happens? Prakriti purushasya iha dahyyamanatu agarnisham. When you perform like bhakti like this, when you practice austerity, knowledge, tapasya, etc., the subtle body of the jiva burns continuously, dakhyamana, and gradually disappears. Shanakair, Tiro Bhavitri, gradually disappears. Like Agner Yoni Iva Aranihi. Like the kindling stick is consumed by fire. So, so in these three verses, Kapila Dev says that the cause of the material existence is that we are bound by the three gunas. The three gunas of material nature are imposed upon the jiva. That is caused by the ignorance of the jiva. When the living entity is ignorant of his constitutional position, then the three modes of material nature are imposed upon the jiva. So therefore, one has to destroy the ignorance. One has to destroy the ignorance. So, but sometimes when a person is executing a particular sadhana, when he commits mistakes in the sadhana, the fear of material existence again reappears in a person. Therefore, Kapila Dev says that one should practice the Bhakti Yoga intensely. Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. And Bhakti should be performed without desire for the results. Animitta Nimittena. And when you perform like this, then it Amala Atmana, it purifies the heart, it purifies the mind, intelligence, and ego. And the Bhakti Yoga should be nourished by hearing about me. Shruta Sambrutaya Chiram. It should be nourished by hearing about me. So Prabhupada explains that the purport about the importance of hearing. The serious devotional service can develop by hearing for long periods of time. Shrutasya pumsam suchira shramasya nanvanjasa suribiridi torta tattat gunanu shravanam mukunda padaravinda hridayeshu yesham. Shrutasya pumsam suchira shramasya. The goal of a person who is engaged in studying the scriptures for a long time. So here it is explained that, like even the 10th canto, when the cowherd boys came and told the wives of the Brahmanas that Krishna and Balaram are hungry and they are there in the nearby village, the nearby forest. As soon as they heard this, because these wives of the Brahmanas had heard about Krishna for a long time, they had developed a strong attraction towards Krishna. So as soon as they heard that Krishna and Balaram are hungry, and they are just nearby, that news acted like a spark. And their hearing for a long time was stored in the form of their heart, in the form of a petrol. When petrol comes in contact with a spark, a few days back, the temple, they were having fire extinguisher demonstration. The courtyard, how to just, for safety purposes, how to, suppose fire breaks out, how to use the fire extinguisher to put out the fire. So they had put actually in the courtyard, they had kept a small, some drum, not a drum, but a vessel, a long vessel. In that they poured water. And in the water, they poured a small quantity of petrol. And then they would put a matchstick and this one, and then immediately fire would come. And then some devotee would, with the fire extinguisher, he has to practice to extinguish that fire. So although it is water, but in water, when you put a few drops of petrol, and then when you put the spark of matchbox fire, then it immediately comes a big fire actually. So these wives of the Brahmanas, they had heard about Krishna for a long time. So because of that, they developed attraction for Krishna. It was like a petrol in their heart. And when they heard that Krishna and Balaram are hungry, they are just in the nearby forest, that one sentence was like a spark, and that spark ignited that petrol into a blazing fire. And that blazing fire is nothing but the gopis those ladies immediately packed up all the foodstuffs and they rushed to the forest. That is comparative. We can say the blazing fire, the result of petrol coming in contact with the spark. So the Shruta Sambrutaya Chiram, because one can practice intense bhakti only when it is only when a person has heard properly for a long time. And so Prabhupada says that by association with the material nature, one does not become conditioned. Conditional life begins when a person is infected by the modes of nature. If somebody may be in contact with the police department, that does not make that person a criminal. Only when a person only when a person commits actually criminal acts, then a person becomes a criminal. So similarly, that a person may be in the material world, but when he is engaged in devotional service, he is not affected by the three modes of nature. So it's simply being in the material world does not make a person conditioned. When a person tries to lord it over matter, then he is infected by the three modes of nature. So therefore, when a person is in the material world, one has to act in such a way that he is not affected by the contamination of the three modes of nature. And that is what Krishna says, that Brahman yadaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha lipyate nasapapena padmapatram ivambasa. A person may be in the material world engaged in many activities, but one has to perform the activities in such a way that he is not infected by the activities. Just like a drop of water in a Padma Patra, in the leaf, in the lotus leaf. It is untouched by the lotus leaf is untouched by the drop of water. There's a very beautiful shloka in the Niti. I'll just recite the shloka, 1 minute. Yeah, this shloka is about association, because just in a slightly different topic, but very beautiful shloka. The shloka says, Santapta yasi samstitasya payaso namapi na jnayate. So there is one drop of water. If that one drop of water, it falls on a hot iron. Santapta yasi samsitasya. Yeah, like if that one drop of water falls on a hot iron, then what will happen? And that one drop of water will get evaporated by the heat emanating from the iron. You can't even see where that drop of water has gone. It is completely extinguished. It's completely evaporated. Mukta karataya tadeva nalini patrastitam rajate. But the same one drop of water, when it falls on a nalini patra means a lotus leaf, then that one drop of water, it shines like a pearl. Mukta karataya. Shines like a pearl. It does not make the lotus leaf wet, but it simply shines like a pearl. Swatyam sagara shakti madhya patitam tan mautikam jayate. But the same one drop of water, when it falls on a oyster shell on the Swati Nakshatra. When it falls on an oyster shell in the ocean on the Swati Nakshatra, then that one drop of water actually gets transformed into a pearl. Tan Mautikam Jayate. Like, yeah, we may not have experienced this, how the drop of water can transform into pearl. But that is how it is explained, that on the Swati Nakshatra, if that one drop of water falls on an oyster shell in the ocean, it becomes a pearl. So prayena adama madhya mottama gunaha samsargato jayate. So what does this actually shows the power of association. The first example is compared to the adama association, the lowest association. When you associate with the lowest kind of people, then you get destroyed. That means like your character gets destroyed. Just like the drop of water, when it associates with a hot iron, that drop of water gets evaporated, it gets destroyed. When you associate with a mediocre kind of people, that is compared to the one drop of water falling on the lotus leaf. It shines like a pearl. When you associate with a, say, intermediate or mediocre kind of people, then you also get some inspiration. You also shine like the good person. You shine. You also look like a person with a good character. You also shine like the person with good character. But the person, when you associate with the topmost person, a topmost devotee, or this one, then you actually get it transformed. Just like the same drop of water, when it falls on an oyster shell on the Swati Nakshatra, it gets transformed into a pearl, not simply shines like a pearl. Anyway, this is the same lotus leaf analogy and drop of water. This analogy is used in a different context here, but I just remembered this verse, therefore mentioned. But here Prabhupada says that it's not that simply performing any activity makes a person bound. Rather, how a person performs different activities, with what desires, with what consciousness, that actually binds a person. So therefore, one has to perform one's different duties and activities in such a way that he is not affected by the material contamination, just like the lotus flower. Although it is in association with the water, it does not mix with the water. Padma Patram Ivam Basa. So, and Swadharmena, Amalatmana, Swadharmena Prabhupada explains that one has to perform one's prescribed duties with Krishna consciousness. There is no need to give up one's prescribed duty. There is no need to change one's prescribed duties. So Krishna actually does not come to unsettle us from our material position. Sometimes the people, they speak that Krishna is a jealous God. No, this is actually a Christian concept. Jealous God means that they have concept that God actually does not see what you are giving to him, rather he sees how much you are holding back. This is a Christian concept of a jealous God. Sometimes people actually speak that, but that's not the right idea. That's not the idea of a Sanatana Dharma. So Krishna does not come to actually unnecessarily disturb us in our material condition. So therefore, prescribed duties need not be given up, rather they have to be performed with a clean consciousness. And that's what it's explained, that yajnartat karmano anyatra. So when we talk about Shruta Sambrutaya Chiram, one should hear the scriptures. The scriptures are of two types, that which is spoken by Krishna, that is Gita, and that which is spoken about Krishna, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. And when we do regular hearing, Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Hyabhadrani Vidunoti Suhrittatam. By regular hearing, the lower modes of material nature will get purified. And then the next verse, the 22nd verse, Kapila Dev says that Jnanena Drishta Tattvena Vairagyena Baliyasa Tapo Yuktena Yogena Tivrena Atma Samadhina. So here Prabhupada is explaining that one has to perform devotional service by visualizing the absolute truth in full knowledge. So he talks about how one should understand the absolute truth by evolving one's transcendental knowledge. And when a person increases one's knowledge, that increase of knowledge is manifested in the form of renunciation. Not as some temporary renunciation or not as some artificial renunciation, but a strong renunciation. And if a person does not separate himself from material enjoyment, it is to be understood that he is not advancing in Krishna consciousness. So, yeah, these are the points in this 22nd verse. And then the 23rd verse, Kapila Dev says that finally a person's subtle body gets destroyed. Dakyamanatu aharnisham. He gives an interesting analogy. Just like a kindling stick, because now in the city we just use actually gas stove, everything. But if you had observed some traditional cooking, so they will have certain wood and everything, and then there will be a kindling stick will be there. And the kindling stick will be used to ignite the fire. And once the fire is ignited, the kindling stick will also get consumed in that fire. So similarly, that with our subtle body, we try to focus our mind on Krishna. And then when a person becomes mature in Krishna consciousness, with our subtle body, we try to fix our mind on Krishna, we try to fix our intelligence on Krishna. And once the subtle body is spiritualized, that Krishna consciousness becomes, Krishna consciousness extinguishes the subtle body and a person's material life ends. Just like once the fire starts blazing, that fire consumes the very kindling rod which ignited the fire. So here, fire is conserved in the wooden sticks, and when the circumstances are favorable, the fire is ignited. But the wooden sticks, which are the cause of fire, are also consumed by the fire if it is properly dealt with. So similarly, the living entity's conditional life is due to his desire to lord it over matter. And the main disease of the living entities are he wants to become the lord of the material nature, or he wants to become one with the Supreme Lord. So there are two diseases, Bhukti and Mukti. Bhukti is the disease of the karmis who want to enjoy the resources of the material nature. And Mukti is the disease of the jnanis. These jnanis have become frustrated in trying to enjoy the resources of the material nature. And then when they become frustrated, they want to become one with the Supreme. And both these diseases, Bhukti and Bhukti, both are due to material contamination. And this material contamination, the desire for bhukti and mukti, both will get consumed by devotional service. So here very beautifully Prabhupada says that a devotee is also apparently engaged in many material activities. A devotee is also maybe engaged in, say, working in, say, some company or doing business or stock market or many different activities one may be doing. But externally, it appears that he is doing the same activities like a ordinary karmi. But because a devotee is performing the activities for the sake of Krishna, so by those activities, because it is performed with the motivation to serve Krishna, so therefore he does not get contaminated, or he does not get bound by those actions. And a devotee may also engage in philosophical research to understand the Supreme Person as he is. A devotee may be engaged in studying different books and philosophical research. So therefore his activities may appear to be like the activity of a jnani, a mental speculator who is also trying to read different scriptures. But when a devotee is studying the scriptures with a philosophical research, his goal is that he is trying to understand the nature of the Supreme Lord. He is trying to understand the activities of the Supreme Lord. So although the tendency for philosophical speculation exists, but the material effects of fruitive activities and the empiric speculation do not exist. So therefore, a devotee may be apparently performing the activities of a karmi and a jnani, but the effect of those activities will not exist because the devotee is performing those activities with the purpose of serving Krishna. That is meant for the Supreme Lord. So in this way, our Kapil Dev says. And then the next verse he says, Bhukta Bhoga Parityakta.
Bhukta Bhoga Parityakta.
Drishta Dosha Cha Nityashaha.
Drishta Dosha Cha Nityasaha.
Neshwarasya Shubham Datte.
Neshwarasya Shubham Datte.
Sve Mahimni Sthitasya Cha.
Sve Mahimni Sthitasya Cha. By discovering the faultiness of his desiring to lord it over material nature, and by therefore giving it up, the living entity becomes independent and stands in his own glory.
It's a very profound verse. By understanding the fault in lording over material nature. Since the living entity sees the faults in Prakriti, which has been given up after enjoyment, Prakriti can never harm that living entity who is capable of discrimination and is situated on the correct path. So when the living entity understands when the living entity sees the fault in trying to lord it over material nature, then he gives up the attempt to enjoy matter, then he becomes truly independent. Then he is situated in his real glory. Sve Mahimni Sthitasya Cha, or he is situated on the correct path. So, here Vishwanath Chakravartipad says that the previous verse, Kapila Dev explained that how the subtle body gets destroyed And just like the fire destroys the kindling stick. He says, even if the subtle body remains after being burned like the kindling stick, but the subtle body cannot harm the living entity. Because the living entity sees with its intelligence the fault in trying to lord it over matter. So although the Prakriti may sometimes affect him, the Prakriti cannot harm the Jiva because the living entity sees the fault in trying to lord it over matter. And the living entity is capable by the intelligence of seeing the fault in enjoyment, and he gives it up after enjoying because he is situated on the correct path taught by the Guru. Sve Mahimni, that means he is situated in his real glory, or he is situated in the correct path taught by the Guru. So it's a very profound verse. The purport also Prabhupada writes. The living entity, because generally like people want to be free and independent. People want like, especially the Western culture, they talk about Western culture is highly individualistic culture. Highly individualistic culture that be independent and don't actually don't be bound by any responsibilities or duties. Recently, there was a news actually. The news said that in America, the parents have started charging rent for their children after a certain age. I think some age it was mentioned, 16 or something like that. The parents have started charging monthly rent for their children. So I was thinking that actually just few days back, I was reading one in the Panini Vyakarana. There are one type of dhatu called as Nama dhatu. Nama dhatu means that Nama dhatu means suppose there is a noun is there and the noun is converted into a verb. Rama is a noun. Rama is the name of a person. But when that is converted into a dhatu, it becomes Ramayate. Ramayate. Ramayate means one who acts like Ram or one who behaves like Ram. Or behaving like a Ram, that activity is called as Ramayate. So Nama Dhatu, for Nama Dhatu, there is an example which was given. For example, Guruhu Shishyaha Putram Iva Acharati. Guru, suppose this sentence is there, Guru is treating the Shishya like his own son. Guruhu Shishyaha Putram Iva Acharati. But the same sentence, if you form the sentence using the Nama Dhatu, it will be Guruhu Shishyam Putriyate. I mean, it also the same meaning. Guru treats his disciple like a son. Guruhu Shishyam Putriyate. So previously there was actually such culture was there. Like normally parents, they don't charge some rent from the children. So it is unheard of in India, but because it is coming in the West, so after some time, maybe at some point of time, it will come in the India also actually. So parents they perform the like most service to the children actually. That is why the devotees, they want to take up the position of the parents of Krishna because they get so much of opportunity to serve Krishna. So parents, they don't charge anything for actually say the parents teach something to the children. They don't charge, oh, you have to pay this tuition fee or something like that. And previously the teachers, Guru also would not charge the children, the disciples, that is where, in fact, not only they will not charge the disciples, but they will deal with the disciples with affection like the parents. Therefore, such forms of the dhatus were there. Guru would treat the disciples like the parents. So, but I was thinking that, but as time progressed, when the education became commercialized, so this usage will not be effective only, because the Guru, he actually, the teachers or the education system, it is making business out of the students. Therefore, we can't actually use this analogy only. The teachers treat their students like the parents. But now, as the materialism or the Western culture is progressing, where the parents have started charging for their children, then this analogy is coming to be true, because the education is anyway commercialized. Now the parents also started charging for their children after a certain age. Therefore, we can say the analogy is become, now it is appropriate, because the gurus are charging the children just like the parents charge the children. Anyway, but the point is that the Western culture, one does not want to be bound by any duties. Parents think that why should I keep actually paying for their children? They are not doing anything, or when they see the certain their sons or daughters are not doing or irresponsible, that is also one reason they say the Western society they start charging their children. So people want to be independent, they want to be highly individualistic. But this verse in the Bhagavatam says that what is the real way to be independent? Ishwarasya Ashubham Date. The real way to be independent is that when a person realizes the fault in lording it over matter, and when a person realizes that he is the eternal servant of Krishna, then that is the real way to become independent. That is the true way to become independent. So generally people think that servant means it is a condemned thing. People, when they hear that I have to be the servant of the Lord, so they think in terms of the same experience they have in the material world. In the material world, when somebody is trying to serve a master or something, they have a very bitter experience in serving that master. Hare Krishna, and mute actually. So when they hear that in the spiritual path also one has to be a servant, so they try to superimpose whatever experience they have in the material world. They feel that they will have the same kind of experience in the spiritual platform also. So, but here it is explained that when a person becomes the actual servant of Krishna, then he becomes truly independent. So Prabhupada says that when one is actually situated in bhakti, that is his independent position. Less intelligent man cannot understand the position of the eternal servant of the Lord. Haribo.
Actually, I'm trying to mute him, but
Okay.
it reappears again.
Okay. So less intelligent man cannot understand the position of the eternal servant of the Lord, because the word servant is used, they become confused. Just like suppose a cow is actually, once a cow was actually caught up in a fire. The cow was surrounded by the fire, and all around the cow is seeing the intense fire. And then the cow, somehow or other, it escaped from that fire. It escaped from that fire. So after that instance, whenever the cow would see a red color, whenever the cow would see the red color, the cow would start frantically running from that place. Because the red color would remind that cow of the previous experience with the fire. The red color would actually remain that cow of the previous experience with the fire. Although there is no fire, but it actually tries to bring that previous experience and it would start running whenever it sees the red color. So similarly, a conditioned soul has a very bitter experience of trying to serve a material master. And then when he comes to spiritual life, when he hears the word as being the servant of Krishna, that past bitter experience of serving somebody, that experience immediately comes in his mind. And then he thinks that, oh, here also serving Krishna also means I'll have bitter experience. Then he starts running from that, or he becomes afraid of that, or he becomes confused. So if one can understand this and can thus revive one's original nature of eternal servitorship of the Lord, one stands fully independent. A living entity's independence is lost by material contact. In the spiritual world, he has full independence, and therefore there is no question of being dependent on the three modes of nature. So therefore, the living entities becomes truly a Ishvara when he engages in the service of the Lord. So on the other hand, when a person artificially tries to become Ishvara by trying to lord it over matter, then he becomes more and more entangled. So, in fact, the very same verse, in fact, very similar meaning, verse actually comes in the Dhruva Maharaj section. Dhruva Maharaj, he says that Swarajyam yachato maudyan mano me bhikshito bata Ishwarat Kshina Punyena Palikaran Ivadanaha. Dhruva Maharaj starts repenting. He says that because of my state of complete foolishness, although the Lord offered me his personal service, I wanted material fame. I wanted material fame and prosperity. My case is just like a poor man. When he satisfied the great emperor, and the great emperor was ready to give him anything, but that poor man, out of ignorance, asked for a few broken grains of first rice. So similarly, the Lord was ready to offer his personal service to me, but instead of that, I actually I aspired for a kingdom greater than that of Lord Brahma. I aspired for material opulence. So Dhruva Maharaj was actually repenting like that. So Prabhupada says in that purport, a conditioned soul does not know what complete independence is. So complete independence means to be situated in one's constitutional position. Therefore, the real independence of a living entity is to be always dependent on Krishna. Just like a child who plays in complete independence, guided by his parents who watch over him. So therefore, the independence of the living entity does not mean to fight with the obstacles of Maya, but to surrender it to Krishna. So, like there is it's a beautiful story actually. In Madurai in South India, so there was a king called as Vallabhadeva. So this Vallabhadeva, he disguised himself as an ordinary person. He was going around the villages to know the welfare of the citizens. So there is a small village near the Madurai called as Srivilliputturu. So this king was actually going in this, he was roaming in that village just to find out what the citizens, how they are doing, are they happy. So once he saw a Brahmana sleeping on the front porch of a house. And then he saw this old Brahmana and then stopped to inquire about him. And the Brahmana told that I am actually a pilgrim. I am returning to South India after a tour of many temples. After visiting many temples where the Ganges flows, I am returning here. And then after visiting many places, I am coming here to the Srivilliputtur. And the king asked them, can you please teach me some wisdom that will lead me to enlightenment? And that Brahmana recited a shloka. The meaning of the shloka is that one has to work hard, one has to work hard in order to accumulate the resources during the rainy season, for the rainy season. Because during the rainy season, one will be unable to travel to different places. So before the rainy season, for many months, one has to work hard and collect all the resources so that one can peacefully stay in the house during the rainy season. And similarly, one has to work hard during the youth so that a person can peacefully pass his old age. He can have a peaceful retired life. And similarly, one has to search for the ultimate reality, or one has to, in order to go to the spiritual world and attain the ultimate reality, in this lifetime, one should work hard in order to get the particular piety to go to the spiritual world to attain the ultimate reality. And the king was very impressed by the shloka, and he honored that Brahmana, and then his mind started thinking about the shloka. What have I done in my life in order to, because it so much clicked to his mind. I have not done anything to attain the spiritual world. But throughout my life, I spent my time in actually conquering the kingdoms, accumulating wealth, and enjoying different things. But I have not done anything with the purpose of attaining the spiritual world, to attain the supreme absolute truth. So it's so much, the sloka so much struck his mind. The king actually started thinking deeply on the shloka, and he was constantly worried about who is that ultimate reality, how to attain him, how to attain the spiritual world, who is that ultimate reality. And there are so many paths described in the Sanatana Dharma. Which path I should follow to attain that ultimate reality? There are so many paths are there, and there are so many gods are there. Brahma is there, Shiva is there, Ganesh is there, Vishnu is there. So many goals are mentioned, so many sadhanas are mentioned. But what is that ultimate reality? Then he called his guru Selva Nambi, and he told that this is my anxiety. I met this Brahmana, he spoke the shloka. Can you please tell me what is that ultimate reality and what is the way to attain that ultimate reality? And the Selva Nambi, the guru, told the king that you call all the panditas from the different directions, all the scholars and philosophers of various paths, for a contest which will determine the ultimate reality, the Paratattva. And you tie a golden, a bag containing the gold coins in a long vertical pole. And you actually call for all the panditas to come and actually explain the ultimate reality. And you announce that this booty of the gold coins will go to that scholar who can bring down that gold beauty with his faith. Like if a person speaks what is the ultimate reality and what is the way to attain that ultimate reality with great faith, And at that time, if his actually speech is true, then that golden beauty, that golden booty will actually will be automatically lowered. And that golden booty will go to that particular scholar. So he announced it like that. And then he announced that, and so many scholars came from different places. And although so many scholars tried this, but none of the scholars were successful with their eloquent speeches and heated debates. None of the scholars were successful. And one night, what happened? Lord appeared in the dream of a devotee called as Vishnu Chitta. This Vishnu Chitta, he is a resident of Srivilliputturu. And Vishnu Chitta, he was not a learned Brahmana, but he was performing very sincere service to that Lord Vishnu. His service was that he was maintaining a flower garden, and then he would grow the flowers, and then he would make garlands for the Lord, and he would offer it to the Lord. So one day the Lord came in his dream and told that you go to this particular contest, which the king is actually announced, and then you go and actually speak about the Paratattva and the way to attain the Paratattva. And the Vishnu Chitta said that, like, I don't know, I have not read any scriptures, I have not studied under a guru, I am not a learned person. How will I be able to actually contest with all these great scholars? And the Lord told that, by my mercy, you are actually making this garland, you are growing the flowers. Similarly, have faith in me, and you go to Madurai. By my mercy, you will be able to win this contest. So this Vishnu Chitta, having put faith in the words of the Lord, he actually went to that place. And he went to that place, and he started quoting from Vedas, Upanishads, and so many places about from the Puranas about the Paratattva, and he proved that Vishnu is the Paratattva, and the way to attain Vishnu is through bhakti or sharanagati. And when he spoke that with great conviction, all the scholars were astonished, and that golden booty actually came down. And then everyone was astonished to see how that bag of coins fall on its own accord into Vishnu Chitta's palms. The whole court acknowledged that Vishnu Chitta had the special grace of the Lord, and the king actually became convinced who is the Paratattva and what is the way to attain him. And the king honored that Vishnu Chitta with the title called as Bhattar Piran. Bhattar Piran. Bhattar Piran means, Bhattar means all this, we can say the Panditas. Bhattar Piran means, one meaning is that one who helped all the scholars, all the Pandits, by proving who is the Paratattva. Another meaning of Bhattar Piran means one who is the leader of all the scholars. So in this way, Vishnu Chitta was actually declared as the leader. He was actually victorious. And then he was actually a small, ordinary Brahmana or poor Brahmana, but Lord made him so famous. And the king actually, king respected him by making him sit on an elephant. And when he was made to sit on an elephant, and it was declared to the whole city of Madurai that he is actually the winner of this contest. And when he was sitting on that elephant, Lord Narayan, along with Lakshmi Devi and Garuda, the Lord was so pleased to see how his devotee is being glorified. The Lord actually came to see his devotee. The Lord actually came in the sky, and then in order to witness how his devotee is being glorified, he appeared in the sky. When the Lord appeared in the sky, at that time Vishnu Chittar, he actually composed a poem. He composed actually 12 songs to glorify the Lord. That is called as Tirupallandu. So I'll just recite the first song. So when he actually saw the Lord, Vishnu Chittar said that Pallandu Pallandu Pallayirattandu Palagodi Nooraayiram Mallanda Tindol Manivanna Un Sevadi Sevvi Tirukkaappu. This is in Tamil. But what he is saying is that he is actually blessing the Lord. May you live long. Like normally, when we see the Supreme Lord, we have our list of things to ask from the Supreme Lord. But Vishnu Chittar speciality is that instead of asking from the Supreme Lord, he is actually blessing the Supreme Lord. Pallandu, that means may you live for many, many years. Again, he says, Pallandu, may you live for many, many years. Again, he says, Pallayirattandu, may you live for thousands of years. Again, he says, Palakodi Nooraayiram, may you live for hundreds and crores of years. Why he is saying this 4 times? Because first time he says, Pallandu, may you live for many years. He says that, may you live for many years according to the human calculation. And then again he says, Pallandu, may you live for many years according to the calculation of the Devatas. And then he says, but even higher than the Devatas' lifespan is the Brahma's lifespan. Therefore he says, Pallayirattandu, may you live for many, many years according to the measurement of Brahma's lifespan. And then why is he telling 4th time? Because Brahma is the topmost living entity. The 4th time he says, because even among Brahmas, there are so many different types of Brahmas. Like in the current universe, there is a smallest universe in that 4-handed Brahma is there. There are other universes with 100-handed, 1,000-headed Brahma, 10,000-headed Brahma, 1,00,000-headed Brahma. So Palakodi Nooraayiram, that means may you live for the lifespan of all these Brahmas. And then he says, the Lord is asking Vishnu Chittar, are you afraid? Are you afraid of me? That why are you saying that I should live for such a long time? That are you afraid that I may die or something like that? So Vishnu Chittar is saying, Mallanda Tindol Manivanna. No, I know that you are so powerful. You have a strong shoulder, and you are so powerful that you have actually killed wrestlers like Chanura de Mustika. You have such a strong shoulder that you have the power to defeat any wrestlers. And one Sevadi Sevvi Tirukkaappu, that says that you have a reddish lotus feet. You have a reddish lotus feet, and Sevvi Tirukkaappu, that means that let those actually reddish lotus feet actually protect me. Let those reddish lotus feet, let it do raksha of everyone. Or I pray that your reddish lotus feet be protected. Like that he prays. So this Vishnu Chittar is called as Periya Alvar. Periya means big. Alvar is the different devotees in the Sri Sampradaya. So he's called as Periya Alvar because the speciality of him is that because when the Lord appeared in the mood of the parent of Krishna, in the Vatsalya mood, he, just like a parents want the children to stay for many years, Dirgha Ayushman Bhava. Similarly, Vishnu Chitar prayed that may the Lord remain for many years like that. So we see that in this particular verse, Kapila Dev says that when a person understands the fault in trying to lord it over material nature, and when he understands that one is the servant of the Supreme Lord, then he becomes truly independent. He is situated in his true glory. And this true independence, being the servant of the Lord, it actually goes to such a level where a person is takes up the position of even the parent of the Supreme Lord. And a person is praying that the Lord actually should remain for many years in the mood of a father, in the mood of a mother. So I'll stop here and we will complete the last verses next time. Anybody has questions and comments?
Haribol.
Haribol.
Prabhuji, which is this last verse number?
24, Prabhu.
24 we have completed.
Yes.
Haribol, Haribol, Haribol.